Good morning, ICE community. How is everybody? Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you guys had a great time with friends and family. It's always a good week to just fill up and get your extra protein in, and it's why we live the lifestyle we do to handle this little turbulence every now and then that we're bound to run into. So I hope you guys had a good time though with friends and family, and find some good things to be thankful for in this world. Because hopefully we can dig out. We all have plenty to be thankful for. We just have to look beyond some of the hard stuff sometimes. So today is Fitness Athlete Friday. This is your TNI's Daily Show. I am your host, Joe Hanisco. We're going to be talking about RX scaling today. So what I truly mean is how are we going to master the art of scaling for our athletes when we're working with them through rehab and whatnot. So we'll get into that. Before I do, I kind of want to tip my hat to a couple of fitness athlete courses that we have coming up. I know Mitch Babcock has the final one of the year in Santa Barbara, California, coming up early December, like the 3rd and 4th. So it's probably this coming weekend here. So that's the last ICE course for the fitness athlete crew this year in 2022. And we're going to hit the ground running strong in 2023. I think Zach is over in right outside of the Atlanta, Georgia area in January. I have Miami area, Doral, Florida in February. I know I also have a course coming up in Texas in March. So take a look online. All of us have a few courses popping up early in the 2023 calendar. And then I think our Essentials online course is just taking off now, but Advanced Concepts will kick off in February as well. So we are going to be bringing it hard at the beginning of 2023, and we're excited about that. This holiday time is usually a little bit of a lull for us for good reason. So rest up and then get ready to learn, hopefully in the beginning of the new year there. So let's talk RX scaling though, team. I want to cover first, like the why. Like, why are we looking to talk about this conversation? I think at ICE we use the phrase, we want to minimize symptoms to maximize fitness and performance. That's always our goal with this PT 2.0 model. What can we do to decrease your symptoms, which is what physical therapy should be built around. But that 2.0 model of how do I make sure that while you're dealing with this issue that you have, or what direction we're going, is always going to be maximizing your fitness. So I think the ability to have adequate high level scaling amidst these acute kind of flare-ups that patients will be coming in with is absolutely crucial to maximizing fitness now and then later on too, during the recovery and towards the end of the recovery. So the why is quite simple. We want to minimize symptoms and maximize fitness. That's going to be our goal with this. So the reason I want to bring this up now is that I recently just had a patient that I wanted to chat about, that I just saw like the power of it again. Like, I'm always trying to do my damnedest to keep people in the gym. That's my goal here at Onward Grand Rapids, and hopefully we're pushing that message across the board. But I had a client come in. It's a member from my gym, young girl, who texted me. We chatted over the phone. She had a pretty gnarly acute low back flare up. So just think standard radiculopathy, but at a pretty high level. And this is a tough girl. She's super active in the gym. She's not afraid of a little bit pain and discomfort. So this is a pretty gnarly flare up that she had. And she's had some history of chronic back issues. But this really came to her during her regular day. I think she said she was getting up in the morning, or it might have been in the evening, but she was getting dressed and bent over to help kind of like get her pant around her foot where it was snagged. And boom, she had that signal sent through that low back and down into the leg. And that's when this all started. So she was in rough shape. She shows up at my clinic, and we do our assessment. We're definitely dialed into this radiculopathy. And unfortunately, here's a little, the first part of the story is that I'm not going to be shy and say that I actually brought tears to her eyes during my assessment. This is how flared up she was. Doing a straight leg test for little neural tension, and within literally the first 15 to 20 degrees, like I could see the look on her eyes, and all of a sudden we get a little bit of a teary-eyed going, where I could tell the intensity was pretty dang significant. Like, it didn't take much for me to start to flare this up, so we knew we were right off the bat dealing with some pretty acute and pretty irritable pain here. So, but the other benefit of sorry guys, my lights kicked off. The other benefit, though, that we see later on is that I brought tears to her eyes secondarily, is we were able to get her back in the gym ASAP. Like, she tells me, like, as she's laying on the table, she's like, I'm frustrated with the way I feel, but I'm also just concerned about like the fact that I'm losing some of my ability to be me right now. In these last week, I haven't been able to do the things I want to do. I'm afraid that I'm going to make this worse. So we had great conversation right from the get-go. We're going to take our time right now to minimize your pain, and I'm going to help you We did a good job of that. We did some needling, some adjustments, and I'll tell you that within the first 72 hours or so, she gets a hold of me and she's feeling significantly better. But that's when we jumped on board with, all right, we got to find time and we got to have a good conversation about how we're going to maximize your fitness. So luckily for her and I, we train at the same gym, and I know her program. I know what's expected of her. We were following Mayhem programs. We could pull it up on the app. And so for days, those first couple of days, I'm like, I'm getting you in the gym. Like, there's nothing holding me back right now. You're heading in the right direction. We need to be cautious about flaring this up, but we're getting you back in the gym. And that was that second moment of like, she was like, holy crap, like I thought this was gonna be way longer of a process. I'm feeling so happy about the fact that we're gonna work on this together. So we're gonna talk about that story a little bit more in depth later on, or I guess to kind of put some final conclusions on it. But this is why it brought it up to me, is that it was like, even though I'm doing this all the time, just what a lot of us, a lot of my clientele are putting value in terms of their health, their wellness, and their fitness is so important to them, that these little slip-ups and mishaps that they have in terms of an injury here or there can be devastating to them mentally. And we know that the power of our brain is probably one of the biggest things that we need to be under control of, because it can be both helpful and harmful if we're not in the right frame of mind. So it's the identity of a lot of our clients, and being able to kind of help support that identity is going to be crucial to maximizing the recovery and then able to push through towards their fitness goals as well. So how do we become masters of scaling? How do we be those RX plus scaling? So that RX plus, guys, if you're not familiar, in the term in the world of CrossFit, is usually sometimes used as a little bit of a joke, but it's a real thing now. And that RX is often what's prescribed, like the standard, like this is what we expect of you in this workout. And when people go above and beyond, they often will throw a plus next to it and say, hey, RX plus that workout. So I thought of this title as more or less being just kind of like, how do we take that scaling to another level? How do we get you guys thinking about maximizing your skill set as scalers? So I got 3 things that we need to be focusing on, I think, to maximize our ability to scale. Thing number 1 that we want to focus on is we got to be about it. There's no doubt in my mind that if you're not living the lifestyle, you're not being about it, that you're going to have a hard time scaling, because knowing what things feel like, knowing what stimulus is, knowing what the intent of a movement is, and what areas it challenges or what areas that it can sacrifice here or there. Like, if we don't have that understanding going into scaling, we are going to struggle to then be able to pick the right movement modifications for a client. So first and foremost, that fitness forward PT 2.0 comes back again. We need to be about it. We need to get our time prioritized, that we are spending some time in the gym if we want to be working with these clients who are needing these high level scaling adjustments here. So be about it. It's first and foremost, it's the front line there. It's what we have to do. We have to start with that. So once we've done that, we've maximized our time in the gym, we're putting our time in, we're familiar with the expectations of movements and what they look like and the demands on our body and the movement mechanics and all the coaching performances. We've done our job being about it. What we then have to do is kind of consider, how are we going to have multiple progressions and regressions for a specific movement or something that might tax a specific part of the body? So if we're talking about, burpees, for an example, where the full expectation of a burpee is that we drop down from a standing position, hit the floor, hit the deck with our chest and our thighs on the floor in a full push-up position. Essentially, we pop back up, jumping up onto our feet, standing tall and hands overhead with that final jump of that burpee. If we know the movement standard, we need to be able to progress up and down from there, because if someone is unable to do that for whatever reason, low back pain, and maybe they're flexion intolerant, and so going down into that forward bend to kind of lower themselves to the ground is going to be irritating them, especially knowing that on the opposite of that movement, they're going to hit a little bit of extension, which going in and out of that flexion extension might be aggravating as well. How are we going to go down a level or 2 from there so that we can then build it back up a level or 2 as we get back to that baseline standard? So this is where we see people doing like modifications for burpees to a bench or a box, where they're doing just shortening their range of motion, or maybe they're able to just go one step behind that and say, hey, we're going to go all the way to the floor, but we're not jumping down into that burpee position. We are going to step back and we're going to stay in a tall plank position rather than hitting the deck and popping back up. Having multiple ups and downs from your baseline movement is crucial so that we can move people and scale people to where is most appropriate. Often when I'm working with my athletes, I'm writing these things out for them, saying, here's an aggravating movement for you, the burpee. Here's where you're at now, but what I want you to know is that my goal is to get you as close to that possible, as close to humanly possible to that baseline movement. And here's the two other thoughts that I have in mind. So if our first progression A, is no longer challenging, we're going to go up to progression B. But if progression A is perfect, we're going to hang out there for a while. Or if progression A, or regression, I should be saying, is irritating to you, we're going to go to 1A, a little bit of a back step. So I have one on either side of that baseline movement and that regressed scaled movement that they can then be able to move themselves from after we've had good conversation about what to expect during workouts in terms of pain and discomfort. So you first have to be about it. Secondarily, we got to make sure that we have at least one or two levels above and below the standard movement or the scaled movement we're currently at, so that we can help flex our patient through their healing process, especially if we're not there 24/7 with them. And then third, and probably one of the more important pieces of this, is making sure that we understand the purpose of the movement and that we can maximize intensity, especially in the CrossFit world. A lot of our CrossFit style workouts are built around a certain level of stimulus and intensity. And if we regress or pull people too far away from that, not that the workout is useless at that point, but they're missing the point of it. So I'm often thinking to myself when I see a workout programmed in the board and I'm trying to scale for, if I'm healthy and feeling good, what is the purpose of that workout? How is it supposed to tax my body? Is this muscular fatigue? Is this more of a cardio respiratory challenge and a longer duration workout? We got to understand that purpose and then try to make sure that our scaling options allow that athlete to meet the purpose and the intensity of that workout, but also not aggravate their symptoms. So my example for this is going to be actually a workout in that the client that I was talking to you about earlier in the podcast here had programmed for one of the days of the week that we were chatting about. And it was a mayhem workout of 2 rounds in this case with a 1-to-1 rest ratio. But it was 50 air squats. It was supposed to be 25 heavy dumbbell snatches from the floor, alternating dumbbell snatches, back to 50 air squat. You rest for your 1-to-1 ratio, and you repeat that again. So 50 air squats, heavy dumbbell snatches, 25, 50 air squats, 2 rounds of that. So in total, you're getting 200 air squats and you're getting 50 heavy dumbbell snatches. So in this situation with my friend and client, actually doing air squats was reasonable for her at this time. She could do them with good control. She wasn't rapid firing her way through them, but if she really focused on good bracing positions and maintaining neutral spine throughout her squat, which is what we were teaching with these mechanics, she was doing quite well. She was able to do those air squats. So we're like, cool. You're going to go slow and steady and smooth on those air squats. We're not changing those because that's exactly what the workout was intended for. Just keep moving. On the dumbbell snatch, so however, especially heavy dumbbell snatches, just any hinging for her was not quite there. She wasn't very confident in it. We were kind of working some hinging work back into her home exercise program just to start to build that tolerance back up. But doing heavy dumbbell snatches off the board, going all the way to the floor, probably not a good option for her. And frankly, if she put any type of weight in her hands and it had that momentum and that energy pulling her forward, that was a struggle for her, for those low back muscles and core to kind of keep up with that. And it was quite irritating. So we had talked about, do we just reduce the weight and maybe go from a hang position? But as she was kind of warming up in these, she just felt like she was constantly having to figure out how to move around her back. And I'm like, that's not what I want for this. This is meant to be a high intensity, short, fast duration exercise. And you should be getting a really, really big leg pump from this. And I want to make sure that we meet that standard. So we actually, in this case, we ditched the whole idea of the dumbbell and the snatch because I wanted to make sure that we matched the intensity and that she got the workout that we were looking for here. And we actually substituted calories on the Echo bike, which I was very apologetic for later on because I was like, you're going to get the exact stimulus that we're looking for here. I could tell you when I did that workout, my legs were on fire, and I want to make sure your legs are on fire. So she did 50 air squats, 20 calorie on the Echo bike, 50 air squats, 1-to-1 reps, and then repeat that again. And we were able to get her out the door feeling like she didn't waste her time, feeling like she got the exact stimulus that everybody else in the class was getting. And we were able to, during her warm-up and stuff, even work on a little bit of the progression of the hinging. We were just able to make a call on the fly that it wasn't the best thing for her there. Now, this is a unique scenario when I was like closely interacting with her on this, but I think if we come back to the conclusion of making sure that we have our 3 standards in mind, that we understand movement and that we've lived enough to know what the feel and expectations are for that movement, we are being about it. That is number one. Number two, that we've thought through and we've had good conversations with our clients while they're in-house with you. Like, what do I do if this workout or this movement shows up? You want to have an A and a B, both progressing and regressing from where they're at today in your clinic. Like, here's where you're at. If this is too much for you and you're having too much irritation, it becomes threatening. We got to go downhill. Or if you're thinking this is really easy and I'm feeling better than I was last time I talked to Joe or talked to whoever you're working with, then we got to go uphill 1 or 2 levels. So after understanding the movement, we have to have options on both sides of our current level of fitness. And that third thing is maintaining the purpose and the intensity. I think that one was huge for her in this situation because she didn't feel injured. Like, yes, she was doing a slightly different workout, but in fact, that workout may have been more challenging in some ways than the prescribed workout, but the intended stimulus was still there. So this is a great reflection that I had. I was going to do a different type of an episode today around thanks and being thankful for movement, but Jeff cranked out a good podcast episode yesterday with a theme around thankfulness and just being aware of what's going on in our life. So I want to kind of dug deep and thought about some of the things that are currently coming up in my clinical practice. And I think being a master scaler, an RX plus scaler, is absolutely crucial if you're going to want to work with these fitness athletes. So consider those thoughts, guys. Have a good rest of your holiday weekend here. Hopefully everybody is happy and healthy. We will see you coming up in 2023, if not beforehand. Signing off. Have a good Friday.